Obviously, we've seen a lot with Fall Guys. Fall Guys has been very popular for a number of months now. It basically became one of the biggest things for quite some time. It really made its mark. It really hit a lot of people really well. It was an out of nowhere kind of indie hit too, and now it's become this almost like it's still a discount Fortnite in terms of its crossover appeal, but I mean, it's got Doom, it's got Sonic, it's got Cuphead in there. And they're definitely hitting a lot. And now they're about to head into their fourth season, and they decided that, hey, why don't we do something a little bit more than just, have a new theme? So they're going to introduce squad mode. And this is taken from IGN's feed. And I'm just going to quickly, watch the video with you guys, and we'll kind of go over, the good and the bad of what they're about to do is, because that's really what I want to go through here is how this mode honestly does a lot of things that could be good, but also does a lot of things that could be bad. And I also have a major improvement for Fall Guys that kind of needs to be addressed. But for now, let's see what they officially say about this mode.
Squads is a new game mode in Fall Guys where we're teaming 4 Fall Guys up together in a quest to win the crown. And the crucial difference between Squads mode and normal Fall Guys that people have played before is that being eliminated does not completely eliminate you from the game. You only get eliminated if your entire squad perform poorly on any given round. We've all been in that situation where our teammate gets eliminated in the first round and they have to sit there and watch you compete. And, there's this pressure to be like, oh, maybe we should all just back out, go to the main menu and have another go. This allows you.
So to start things off, I've played Fall Guys a lot. Like on PS4 when it came out for free, I played it probably for 2-3 weeks straight with friends, and we were just going ham on it. We went ham on it. And the one thing that I found personally, and I'm not saying this is going to be everybody, because some people do treat it differently and do end up not liking if they get eliminated in the first round. But if you're playing with friends, generally speaking, when you play Fall Guys, if you get eliminated first round, you're not losing any interest in the game. Now you're watching your friends go through the chaoticness that's Fall Guys. You're going through the journey of now watching your friends and cheering them on and wanting them to win. It's almost like you watching a streamer, but it's people it's people you like, it's people you have an interest of seeing them succeed. So whenever I would get eliminated early and there's still people around, I still play Fall Guys with my VCR podcast guys. And every time I get eliminated before somebody else, I'm still looking at them and be like, all right, come on, you got to do this for us. That's not always going to be the same. I can guarantee that there are some people that are like, oh, I got eliminated first round. Now this is boring. I want to play. Sure, totally understand it. But you are playing in a group now. You can't just expect your group to leave because you got knocked out. Now, squads mode is just basically saying, hey, there's an aggregate, so all you combined is going to determine whether or not you make it. And that, again, is a hit or miss thing, because sure, if you're going in with the intention of, okay, we want to play together as a group as much as possible, then I guess it works. But if you're playing to kind of introduce somebody new to the game and they're pulling you out of games even though you're doing really well, that can also be frustrating. It goes both ways, honestly. I do believe that there is a place for allowing people to be able to get as much game time as they can. But at the same time, this seems like a mode that for some people will actually cause a lot of friction between friends, because what's going to happen is you're going to have that group of friends that pulls in one of their buddies that's either not a big gamer or that, quite frankly, just isn't really getting the game, or could be, it could be a night where you got that one friend that's trashed the second they get on and they're just screwing around and not actually doing anything, and they're keeping you from being able to win. That's going to create friction. And I think for every good it does, it's also going to do bad in return. So it just comes down to, if you're going to use squads mode, if you're going to implement something like this as well, you need to understand the weight that carries on both sides, instead of, because they're going to make it sound like, oh, we're just helping people. You're also going to create a situation where there's going to be some hurt feelings. Because anytime you play something competitive, people want to win. You don't go and play these games and just be like, I'm just here to have a good time. There might be a few people that do that, but you're not playing a competitive mode and not wanting to win. If you're playing a competitive game and you don't want to win, what are you playing a competitive game for? That's what single player is. That's what, casual games are for. Competitively, you want to win, or at least you want to do as well as possible. But if you're in an environment where somebody can keep you from doing as well as you possibly can do, that's going to cause friction. So that's all I'll say. Let's just see if there's anything else they note upon in here.
To basically all perform as a team, and what's great is that almost all of our rounds work in squads mode, and this kind of takes you through from our race rounds through survival rounds to some of our team games to the final, and then the finals work as they always do. So only one of you needs to win, and then all of you are rewarded with crowns at the end of the episode. So
that's actually at least a good way to kind of make it available for everybody and just kind of give them at least an incentive to do well. Because at least now, like, if you have somebody who really struggles, but you have a couple of friends that are really good at this game and have a good chance of winning most times, then at least you can give the person who struggles at least the chance to feel like a sense of they can win. I still think it could work on the reverse, because let's be completely honest. If you are always coming in the tail end of a pack, but you're just making it, and then it gets to the point where, let's say it's the final round, let's say it's Hexagon, and you're the first person eliminated out of that final round, and one of your friends wins, and you still get crowns, yeah, you're still pretty happy that you got something, that you got, the currency that, you can buy these really cool costumes with. But is that going to make you feel like you did something? Are you going to feel like you got out right away, and you're going to feel like you actually, helped do this? No, you're basically mooching off somebody. And sure, there are some people that aren't going to mind, but there's going to be some people that are going to be like, man, I'm so useless. Oh my god, that's when you get the anxiety with people too. They're going to be like, man, are these people hate me because they're literally just giving me all this stuff, and man, they must think like, oh, I must not be that good, and man, they could get even better with some other. You're going to create that level of anxiety in people as well. And especially if we're talking a younger audience, because this game is not like a mature game. It's an E for everybody game. There's going to be those groups of little kids who play together, and how easily kids will just take the piss out of each other and just go ham on oh, you're so bad. And that's going to get into their heads. And it's just one of those things where it's like, man, like I said, for every good that it's going to do, it might create something that's just not going to be helpful.
It's a really exciting change. It plays really differently, and it creates lots of new interesting strategies in different rounds.
I don't particularly care about that.
For a squad that has one really good player and one really bad player.
I guess he is going to talk about something that might be. So let's go back.
Watching streams and talking to the community and just seeing a lot of those posts saying I don't know how you guys would do it, but just I want squads mode. I want to win or lose as a team. And then initially, one of the things that we try and do with Fall Guys is make the game inclusive. And it's not that inclusive when you have a massive difference in skill, because players end up sat watching and spectating, and that kind of sucks. And that's something that other Battle Royale games do a lot better. Like if you look at something like Warzone and their resurgence mechanics, where you're constantly respawning in and helping, that works really well for a squad that has one really good player and one really bad player. And I think we've been looking at games like that and thinking a little bit about how accessible Fall Guys really is for lower skill players, and I think this should be really nice. And I think the final thing as well is that what this potentially does is allow players to experience later rounds that they might not usually get to if they're allowed to play with really high skill players. A really good player can kind of carry you all the way to Hexagon, and so you're allowed to get some training in on Hexagon and then take that training into solos mode again, and really put your practice from those later rounds that you don't usually get to experience into play in.
Okay, so two things. One, I agree that it's a good thing that you can give players a chance to play more modes, by getting them pulled into that. But then I would just argue the point, why can't you just make a practice mode? Just make a practice mode so that you can play all these different games. Because the second point I want to make is, quite frankly, I'm sorry, but this is a competitive game. And I'm not going to give with the get good stuff, but here's the reality. There are a lot of games in Fall Guys, a lot of different modes that I am really good at. But there are some that I'm garbage at. There are some that when I used to stream, like Slime Climb, for example, that I would look at and be like, I don't know what it is about this game, but it's my fucking Achilles heel. I'm probably going to be out on this round. So my argument is that you might think that you're doing a good thing by pulling people into more games so they can practice more, but you literally could just solve this problem with a practice mode. And I'm going to echo this when I also talk about like the one change that I think they really should make about this game. But this is the reality to Mediatonic. You guys have made a fuck ton of money from this game now. You have the capital to have somebody go in and put in a new mode. You literally have the show selector. Now you're putting in squads mode. Put in a goddamn practice mode. If you are worried that people aren't getting enough rounds in these games, literally, you don't even have to have like AI bots. You can literally just have them practice so they can learn how to jump the gaps properly, that they can learn, the best strategies for getting in certain things. Because here's the reality. You can never learn a game of Fall Guys. You can never fully learn any sort of game type because it's never going to play the same. It's always going to be a different level of chaoticism. However, if you have a practice mode where they at least can learn the map, learn how to jump the gaps, learn like the best routes, at least it gives them a fighting chance. With Hexagon, there's no learning Hexagon. Like, this is the reality. I don't understand why he was trying to say like, get some rounds in Hexagon and kind of understand it. You cannot learn Hexagon. You cannot learn a lot of those modes. Like, for example, you can learn, what's the end race map? Is it Fall Mountain? But you guys know what I'm talking about. The one where you actually have to go up the hill and slowly get to the crown that you got to grab at the end. You can learn that because that's a route. You can learn even like Jump Showdown because it's literally just timing and just reading where the bar is coming around in that circle to hit you. You cannot learn Hexagon because Hexagon will never go the same way. Hexagon is determined by who goes where, who decides to go at what speed, and who falls at certain times. You can never learn that. So there are certain games where I don't think pulling them in makes a difference because I have played so many rounds of Hexagon and I think I've won once ever out of like potentially 100 plus tries. So clearly experience doesn't do anything on every map. So I get what he wants to say here, which is just that, look, there are some people that are not really getting a chance to get a lot of rounds in, to which I'm going to say again, just put in a practice mode so that on their own time, they can at least just figure out a couple of these maps a little bit better. But otherwise, like, yeah, sure, I guess if they go in through squads when they get pulled over, yeah, they might be able to learn more, but they're still not going to do very well because they're not good enough yet. Like, they have to learn the maps. And it's not always going to be an easy environment when, especially, there's trolls on certain... Like, is anybody really going to learn Slime Climb very well? Because you can't account for the asshole that's going to just stand at the end of one of the platforms and try to pull you down. Like, that doesn't do anything. So, I really do believe the practice mode, or a practice mode, would be a better way to have players learn some of these things that they're not very good at, or at least give them a chance to try out game modes that they haven't been able to get exposed to yet. But like, there are certain modes that, like I said, it's not going to matter because it's more dependent on how the players play it than the actual map itself. You can't learn a map if the players are what design it. That's really how I feel on that one. So
those mode, and then you're always going to win the full crown to yourself. Current plan is to kind of put this live for 2 weeks and see how it does. The hope though is that we can really turn this into a permanent mode within Fall Guys, because it's really great for us to have more social game modes in the game, things that you can jump on with your friends and really enjoy as a team, regardless of those different skill levels. It's something you've seen be really popular in other battle royale multiplayer games, and it's something we've always wanted to do in Fall Guys, and it's been on our feature list, like basically at the top since we launched. And it's taken us a while to figure out some intricacies of it because it's slightly different, and there are some kind of interesting gameplay mechanics that we've had to design to make it work, but I'm really excited to get people playing it. But I think out of our 40 something rounds, I think about 38 of them work for squads mode, which is really, really cool. So you can go in as a squad of 4, or you can go in on your own and it will match with other people, or you can go in as a squad of 3 and we'll kind of fill those extra spaces. I think that's really important.
Okay, I'm gonna actually say there's a big no to this one. Mediatonic, it's a really bad idea to have a squads mode where you queue in as a solo. It's a really bad idea. Because when you suddenly can get pulled off by a random person that you don't know, there's going to be a very large incentive to bully them. And I know that, I guess, in Fall Guys, you don't really have to worry about it much now. But, I know that there's talks about potentially having accounts so you can have your own name again on PC, for example. But if you're playing on PlayStation, you can see... Or, is it on Xbox? I assume it's on Xbox. But if you can play these games on account, like on platforms that you have a proper account to, you think these people are just going to ignore the fact that some rando got last place or didn't finish and pulled them out of a round? They're going to just go nuts on these people. That's a really bad idea. Squads mode should just be friends. That's a really difficult situation to put people in. Because as soon as skill-based games suddenly go down to you can lose because somebody's really bad on your team, that's going to piss off a lot of people. I don't think it's a good idea to do it in like solo queuing. It's really a bad idea in my opinion.
Because we don't quite know how many people are going to want to jump in on day one, so it's really important for us to create as many avenues for different people to jump in and start enjoying squads as you can. So when we were designing squads mode, it's really important that everybody gets to have a good time. And so we can't qualify your squad if the first person crosses the line, first one across the line wins it for their squad. That's bad because it means that players who are slightly slower or slightly newer to the game don't get a fun experience because they might only be a quarter of the way through DoorDash and then suddenly they're qualified. And it's like, oh, I didn't get the satisfaction of crossing the finish line. And we want those players to be involved in the show. But at the same time, we don't want to wait for the last person to cross the line because then you're only as good as your worst player. It puts a lot of pressure on people to like quit if you're doing badly. The way it works is that you gain points for crossing the line, and if you come first you win 60 points, if you come last you win 1 point, and we eliminate the worst teams who have the lowest point scoring total. And that's really interesting because it means that in certain moments it's better to try and sabotage some of the other players to let your other players catch up. So it might be worth on Seesaw trying to keep this.
All right, well, he's bringing up sabotage, so I guess I can segue right into this. So the change that I want to make in Fall Guys, and this is just my opinion. I understand that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to push back on that. But I think we need to remove the right trigger for grabbing in a lot of modes. I think in the same vein that like if you play a Mario Party game, and there are some games where you have jump and throw or jump and kick or jump and put like something like that. And then some modes just have jump. I do believe that there are some modes that do not need the grab function. Because all the grab function becomes is a troll button. That's really what it is. When games like Slime Climb exist, they're meant to be survive. They're meant to be get to the end. It's not screw everybody else up. Because here's the thing. I watch people say Slime Climb all the time in this way. The job of Slime Climb is to get to the end. That is it. It's not to kill everybody. It's to get to the end. And if you are standing on that roll, that yellow roll in like the one part of the map where you just stand there and grab people, you're not getting to the end. In fact, there's a pretty good chance you'll lose this game because all it takes is the physics to just suddenly mess around a little bit. You fall off and you get covered by the slime and you lose. That's not the point of that game. In the same vein of races, when you grab people you're just trying to get to the finish. And if you'll notice, in a lot of races in sports and whatever else, you can't just go out there and grab people. You can't run a marathon and just grab people and push them to the side. You can't intentionally hit people in car racing. So if they want to make it so that it's like, oh no, this is part of the game, well then we need to start figuring out we need to start just openly saying like, yeah, this can be a troll game, because it's a really frustrating thing. Because here they are trying to talk about how they want to get new players in. Is getting a new player into a game that people are going to intentionally screw them going to be a fun experience? Generally not. Most times that I play Fall Guys, I really enjoy it, but the second you get into a game like Slime Climb and you have an asshole being an asshole, even in the memory games, you see, if you stand on one of the edge squares for the memory match game, they will immediately run to you, try to grab you, and throw you off the edge. I think that's completely idiotic that a game like that, for example, would do something like that. The whole point of the game is just to use your brain and remember where everything is and get on that point. Nothing else. There shouldn't be any reason to use the right trigger to grab somebody on that, because it has nothing to do with that mode. So in my opinion, there needs to be certain ways, or there needs to be certain games, I should say, that just take away the right trigger completely. And if that means somebody has to go in and code a little bit just to be like, if this game is flag, turn off the action for this button and then turn it back on for when it's this game. It's the easiest thing to do in the world. It's so easy. There's no way that they can't code that in like a day and just literally go through, like, if this mode gets flagged in the random queue, turn this button off. That's all it is. It's that simple. So like, this idea here that he's saying like, oh, now it's just going to encourage people to mess with other teams so they can give themselves a fighting chance. that's not how this is supposed to work. You even said so yourself, that it's just supposed to be about having people see the end. Well, they're not going to see the end if people are literally at certain choke points of the map holding you and keeping you from doing it. So that's kind of counteractive to that point. So in the end, it's just like, no, that's not the right way to go about it. If you're going to do that, then you have to get rid of the right trigger and just allow people to run the race like they should. Because you shouldn't be running, like, say, Whirligig, for example, and ever using the right trigger, unless you got to grab the, unless, like, there's that one section where you can either use the platform to jump up to the next one, or you can just jump and grab it. That's the only time you should ever be using the grab button. So, like, I don't know.
So you sort of balance so that no one else can get to the finish line so that the guys behind can catch up, or trying to grab people on Whirligig to get them eliminated just so your stragglers can go. And especially it should really reward people who finish first. Like, it should really make those top spots really viable. It creates a really interesting different way of playing where it really goes down to the final wire, and you can see your squad ranking is sick. Then you know that only the top 6 teams go through. It's a very different, very high intensity way of playing.
Okay, I don't particularly care about the rest of us. I think I've kind of made the points on pretty much everything I need to on this. I mean, obviously, when it comes out, we'll really have a better idea on how it's actually going to be like. But I mean, as it stands, all I see with a mode like that is just I see all the signs of a mode that's going to be not used very widely, especially in public queues, because no one wants to join a mode where their ranking is determined by every other player on their team. If it's a bunch of friends, you can probably justify it. But if it's just a bunch of random players in the queue, you know there are going to be so many hurt feelings. You know that there's going to be so much bullying and harassment on that platform because people are very mad that they're losing because of some newbie that just kind of randomly popped into the queue. I think that for every good that can be done with this mode, there is also an equivalent bad. And I've noticed that with a lot of these Battle Royale games, it's a very toxic community. And Fall Guys, to my knowledge, has not been that bad a toxic community. And now with a mode like Squads mode, that's going to probably propel it further down that road. And, you know, it's a game that I play casually now, but I don't want that game to suddenly turn into just another Fortnite or Apex Legends or any of those kind of games where it's just an endless cascade of people getting mad at each other because they weren't being pulled very well in that team mode. I don't want that for Fall Guys. I don't think that's the kind of thing that it should be asking for to begin with. It's supposed to be the most fun, like, Battle Royale game that there exists out there, like casual fun. And if you're going to suddenly do this stuff where, you know, your ranking is going to be determined by everybody on the team, you're not creating fun anymore. You're creating a possibility for a lot of friction within the team, and I don't think that's a great idea.